So I wanted to make a video just talking about my thoughts and opinions on Peacemaker Season 2. The last episode just aired last week as I'm recording this video, and I've seen the whole season, and I just wanted to come on here and just talk about my honest thoughts and opinions on this season, and just like the future of the DCU as a whole and everything. And the weird thing is, going into this video, and I didn't realize this until I watched a video or saw something on it, or or someone talking about Peacemaker Season 2, and how episode 8, or the last episode that I watched, was the last episode of the season. Going into that episode, or I guess episode 8 being the last episode, I did not know that was going to be the last episode. I did not realize that until afterwards, and so my stupid self thought that we were getting another episode after the last one that we got. So that was that was my fault. But I didn't realize that, and so thinking about the season as a whole and that episode, it made me just think about things differently, I guess, in a way. And I have been noticing that, and I didn't after I watched the last episode and watched the season as a whole, I didn't really go and check other people's thoughts and opinions on the show itself. Not until maybe a couple of days afterwards I had watched the latest episode, and so I didn't really have necessarily a pulse on where everyone's feelings were on the season as a whole, or I guess the last episode. And yeah, a lot of people, it seems like, they didn't really like necessarily the last episode of the season. And I don't know, I'm kind of in a weird place, because watching that episode and not knowing that was the last episode, I really did enjoy technically the last episode of Peacemaker. And I know for a lot of people, I guess they didn't like it, or they just didn't like it. A lot of people have been saying that episode 7 felt like the last episode of the season, and I'm pretty sure that episode dealt with the other universe, or basically the racist universe that Peacemaker goes to, and him meeting that version of his dad and brother, and him reconnecting with them, and him feeling like he belongs in that world rather than the one that he used to live in. And I thought that whole concept, or that whole idea of him going to the other universe and meeting that version of his dad and brother, I thought that whole thing was interesting. The whole thing of him feeling like he never really belonged in his universe, and always feeling he can never catch a break, and him feeling like he can never really do anything right necessarily, and him feeling oh, okay, I gotta go to this other universe where everything seems better and everything. That stuff I really liked. In terms of the comedy in the show, that's a huge thing, especially with James Gunn. That's a huge thing. I feel like comedy is just a thing that's in every James Gunn project to a certain degree, whether that be Peacemaker, whether that be the Suicide Squad, Guardians of the Galaxy, even Superman to an extent. I feel like has that James Gunn comedy to it, for better or worse, for some people. But the comedy in this season I thought was pretty good. There were a lot of moments that had me chuckling and laughing, especially the freaking I forget the character's name, but he's like an Argus agent. I think his name was like Langstrom Flurry. That character I thought was weird and interesting. The whole like oh yeah, his whole bird blindness thing or like whatever, and that was just, I mean, it was funny, but I also thought it was like kind of just like, okay, this is kind of stupid.
What's the deal with the parrot?
That's an eagle.
It's a bald eagle. Are you telling me you don't recognize what kind of bird that is? Okay, you obviously have not read my dossier. I have bird blindness. That motherfucker looked like he caught all the Pokemon. You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't.
But yeah, the whole thing with Rick Flag Sr. and him hating Peacemaker, I thought that, you know, whole thing was interesting as well. Yeah, I thought the whole season was pretty good. I mean, in terms of like maybe things I didn't like, I mean, I don't know. There weren't a lot of things that I necessarily didn't like. I mean, I feel like, I guess in terms of like action, I guess you could say there wasn't like a ton of like action moments like there were in the first season, I guess. But like, I feel like this season was definitely more emotional and a more character focused and more, you know, focusing on, you know, the different types, you know, especially Peacemaker as a character, but, you know, also dealing with the other, you know, side characters in this show. With Amelia, I think they're Harcourt or Amelia Harcourt. I'm pretty sure that's the character's name. Her relationship with Peacemaker and her, you know, her getting into like bar fights and her like dealing with like not being able to get a job. I thought that whole thing was interesting as well. The other characters as well, I thought, you know, Vigilante, obviously Vigilante in the first season was like a funny and interesting character, but in this season he's also a funny and interesting character. Adebayo, I thought, you know, her there was one particular scene, and it was in the last episode, I thought was with her character and her ex-girlfriend in this season. There was one scene in particular in the last episode where I thought, wow, this is like a really good scene. And especially talking about just episode 8 just in general and just like everything surrounding it. It's weird because I did enjoy the episode, but like looking back and like just taking in like other people's thoughts and opinions on it, I mean I can understand why people didn't like episode 8, because episode 8 is, and I've heard people describe it like this, where like people have said that like episode 7 actually feels like the finale of the season, and then episode 8 kind of feels like an epilogue. Episode 8 really just deals with the, I guess, Amelia Harcourt and Peacemaker's like relationship and what happened on like the cruise ship or like whatever. And we get to find out that by the way, I'm gonna be talking about spoilers in this video. We get to find out that basically they had a moment and they ended up kissing, and throughout the whole entire season Peacemaker has been trying to ask Amelia, hey, did that moment on the yacht mean anything, or did that kiss mean anything to you? And through the whole season, we never really get an answer from Amelia. You know, she's always kind of just dodging the question and kind of just like taking her anger and frustration out on Peacemaker. And so the last episode, I feel like really dealt with not only the relationship between Amelia and Peacemaker, but just like the relationship between all of the, you know, characters, you know, Vigilante, Adebayo, I forget the freaking they call him Diebeard. Well, they called him Diebeard in the first season, but I forget, John Economos, that's the guy with the glasses, in the Diebeard, apparently. But yeah, I feel like this episode, or the last episode, really just dealt with like the emotional tie between all of these characters, and like Peacemaker coming to terms with like the fact that, like, you know, in this episode or in this season, he just feels like he can never really do anything right. He kind of just feels like he's always messing up. He's always creating problems where, you know, he's always, it seems like, killing the loved ones around him, whether that be, you know, his brother, his father. You know, in this season, he accidentally kills the other universe's version of Peacemaker. He almost, you know, gets, you know, the other universe's, like, brother, or his, like, that universe's of his brother killed as well. And so this entire season, he feels like, in, you know, it leads up to this final episode, he feels like, you know, he is the cause for all of these bad things in his life. And there is one particular scene in this episode where I feel like is the core of this season, where all of these characters are in a room with him, and they're explaining, you know, why they're all connected and why Peacemaker as a character is so, I guess, just like, you know, loved, I guess, in a way. And I just really like that scene because, one, it kind of made me emotional in a way, and two, it felt very personal and very, it was just a very well acted scene and a very emotional scene, and I really did enjoy it. But I guess getting to, like, the certain things that people didn't like in the season, the cliffhanger at the end. Obviously at the end of the episode, you know, after that emotional scene, we get the whole group or gang creating basically their own, I guess, like, superhero organization, or like on their own, like, company called Checkmate. And, you know, it's run by the whole, you know, it's run by, you know, the Peacemaker gang. And also, you know, there's the added, character. I forget the character's or her name, but she was, like, working with Argus and, like, Rick Flag Sr. But she joins, the group, obviously, and also Judo Master is a character that ends up joining the group as well. And, the freaking Langston Flurry, he also joins the group as well, and they form this organization known as Checkmate. And I thought that whole scene was cool as well. Cool as well. All of them coming together to form this organization, and with, like, the music in the background. And I know a lot of people were, like, complaining that, like, this episode just had, like, a lot of just, like, music video moments in it, or, like, just, like, music in general. And I don't know, for me, I like the moment where, like, they're forming the organization, and, like, you had I forget the name of the band that plays in this episode, or I think it's like Foxy Shazam, or it's basically the song that they have in the intro for every, you know, single episode. That song plays in this episode, and I thought it was like a really cool song or moment or montage or, like, whatever. I really liked it in my opinion. But, like, the ending scene, Rick Flag Sr. basically traps Peacemaker in this other dimension, basically. And I feel like this is, like, a lot of people's problem with, like, this episode in particular, or as the finale. This whole entire episode dealt with basically Rick Flag Sr. trying to find I can't say that word. He's basically trying to find, like, a universe where he can put every single, I guess, criminal or metahuman criminal, I guess, you know, into one universe. So I guess since he's, like, working with Lex Luthor, this is basically his plan, is to put every single criminal or metahuman in, like, this one universe. And that's basically what happens to Peacemaker at the end of this episode. and we get to find out through, and I think it's in like the podcast that they do for this show, or I guess James Gunn explained it himself, that this whole universe that, you know, Rick Flag Sr. trapped Peacemaker in, that's going to have some effect or lead into the new Superman movie or Man of Tomorrow. And a lot of people have been like, you know, saying that like they don't really like this direction that they're going with. And I don't know, it just seems like a lot of people have been saying that like, oh, this is where James Gunn is like messing up, or like he's messing up the DCU, or like he doesn't know what he's doing, or like whatever. And I feel like there's just like a lot of people, I don't even want to say being over dramatic, but kind of just like after this one episode, like I feel like a lot of people like, I don't even want to necessarily say like they were turning on James Gunn, but they were like kind of like just like saying, oh yeah, after this episode, Man of Tomorrow is not going to be very good, or my excitement level for Man of Tomorrow has lowered. And I don't know. For me, I don't really see how this lowers my excitement for Man of Tomorrow. I mean, yeah, this is going to, I guess, play a role some way for Man of Tomorrow, but we don't know really the extent, or like really how much this, I guess, other universe is going to play a role in that movie. And so I don't want to like, I don't know, I don't want to like say that, oh yeah, all the rest of the DCU is going to be trash now just because of this one episode of Peacemaker that wasn't, I guess, you know, wasn't really received well, I guess, by a lot of people. But I think this is just only going to be one of the things, or one of the, I guess, things that happen, or events that happen in the DCU that takes place, I guess, you know, in this world. And I think it could be interesting. The whole idea of trapping all of these metahumans on one, or maybe not all of them, but maybe like a handful of them, I feel like could make for maybe an interesting story. I don't know how much they're gonna play around with that, but it could be interesting. I don't know. But yeah, just as a whole, I enjoyed this season. Is it as good as the first season? I guess as a whole, probably not, but I don't know. As a whole, I enjoyed the season of Peacemaker. I know there wasn't a ton of like, as a finale, there wasn't, you know, if I was to compare this season's finale to last season's finale, I would say last season's finale was more action-packed and more exciting, but I feel like this season's finale just had more going for it in terms of emotional moments and just character, you know, work and stuff like that. And so on that level, I feel like it was a solid finale in my opinion. But in the comments down below, what did you think of the Peacemaker season 2 as a whole? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. And yeah, man, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here, and I will see you guys in the next one. So yeah, bye.
Titties! Encino Man! Get in here! I can't tell how big this thing is.
Fucking bird blindness.